tippy top of Mount Manitoba, actually the 19th floor of Mount Manitoba, and I'm Kirk Buchner, and this is the Hall of Fame show. Evan Nolan couldn't be here. He's on special assignment from, I don't actually know what his regular job is. I mean, I know what it is. I don't even know who it's for. You'll have to tell me this, Evan. You
Shady,
probably did, and
shady
I don't
characters.
remember. Hmm?
Shady characters, maybe?
I'm sure it's nothing shady. I know it's a Fortune 500 company, but if it's not sports, music, or something about something dirty in one ear and out the other. But with me is another co-host of mine, Vinny Lospinuso, the host. Really, it's your show. Vinny makes the Hall of Fame case for, and already on YouTube is your case for Max Zlowski. So we got to promote that because that's on now, and maybe just maybe somebody saw this and they said, you know what, he's going to get into the Basketball Hall of Fame, but we're going to get there a little bit later. It's a kind of a slow week, but it won't be next week for the Hall of Fame related world, as the Final Four is upon us. And what Final Four means for us, for Vinny, myself, and for other Hall of Fame minded individuals is the Basketball Hall of Fame announcement
Mm-hmm.
that's going to take
Yep.
place in a few days. Before we get into that, I'm going to be running through that with Vinny. Evan and I sort of like went through the finals, but I want Vinny's take on this because I got a feeling that I don't know. I know that you're going to be a future Hall of Fame voter. I think it's going to be for basketball. Then I got a feeling.
Hey, listen, if there's any Hall of Fame that I am a huge proponent of in terms of what they do out of the major sports, it's got to be
Mhm.
basketball. Not just because I like their size of selections the most, but
Yep.
also because the types of people they put in are a bit more out of the box. And you know me, especially as a huge contributor, stan
Mhm.
like myself, I love all that. I think that
There you
stuff
go.
is really, really cool. But yeah, I think so far just looking at the finalists for the North American Committee. Now, in case anyone's curious what that means, that's the American players and coaches. But,
Well,
well, when I say American, the ones that predominantly played in America.
I want to hold off on that just yet because our special friend Winnie wants to remind everyone who this is brought by. Winnie, who's who's sponsoring us today? Hi, this is Winnie. Thank you very much to our fine people. Okay, I'm going to stop that because this is just me sort of like, obviously that's not really Winnie. She's a mini dash
It
and just listening.
sounds like Mickey Mouse.
Well, yeah, I've never been able to throw all the impressions I know how to do are now deemed racist, so I don't do them anymore. So yeah, that sounded bad. Whatever. Anywho, we're brought to you by BetStamp. Now, if you're a gambler and Final Four is coming up, and really, if you gamble on anything sports related, and if you're watching this show, you've watched a sports program. And if you watched a sports program, that means that you saw a commercial for a gambling site. Maybe one, maybe two, maybe three, maybe more. Well, there's piles of them. So how do you figure out who's got the best line for you? Well, there's one stop shop, and that's BetStamp. So download the BetStamp app now. So whatever you might be thinking that you want to bet on, and Vinny, you'd be a great gambler if you really sort of took that because you have no heart. You have a heart for people, but usually they're all retired by the time you get super passionate about them. So you could
Forget
probably be
retired. A lot of
super.
them are dead by then.
Well, that's also true. So, I mean, like you're probably one of the most objective people I know. So, if you're like Vinny and you want to do some gambling and you're thinking, I'll tell you some bets I'm kicking around. I said this on the last show I did with Evan, so I'm going to bounce this off. You see what you think. Always feels like every year in the NFL, there's always a bunch of teams that come out of nowhere to win the division. So
Mhm.
I'm going to bet for who has the best odds. I'm going to bet for the 8 worst teams to win their division in each one.
Bold
So
strategy. I'm sure you'll win some, you'll lose some.
well, if I win a couple, then based on the odds, it'll probably be pretty good. But I'm going to line shop, and BetStamp will help me do that. I have accounts with a few different bookies or not bookies, but bookmakers.
Mhm.
So this way, I can just sort of like. So let's say I'm going to put money on the Texans. And it sounds a little. They're probably going to be the weakest one, but this is what I'm going to try, right? So I'm going to see who's
Mhm.
paying out the biggest odds to win the division, and that's where I'm going to go with. And I don't have to do the research. I don't have to put in that much effort. I can just do it all through BetStamp. And also through BetStamp, you can sort of like follow experts who have done very, very well. Unlike myself, because I suck at this.
You're better
I'm
than
a
most,
horrible
probably.
better. I'm horrible at it. You want to make some money? I should sort of like just do a betting show, tell you what I think, and then all of you just bet against what I think. So, but this is before I'm sort of going to take the expert advice. So I've got a promo code for you, and if you want to help support the show, please do download BetStamp, and it's going to ask you for a promo code, and that's Buck25. Buck, because that's my name. Well, it's Kirk, but Kirk Buchner, aka the Buck, and number 25, because you should all be able to remember 25. Half my age right now. When I turn 51, I'm not going to do 25 and a half. That just makes no sense. So I thought what we do today, just also before we go into the basketball hall, just a few site updates. I got a couple emails today and a couple other things through Twitter just asking when's the football list going to be revived. It's sort of matriculating now. Look for that by the end of the week. It has to be done by the end of the week because right after that, I got to jump on basketball and WWE revisions because it's the WWE Hall of Fame coming up. Which also reminds me one thing that is sort of Hall of Fame related note. I don't know if you're a WWE fan. I know you're familiar, but not a fan. Is that safe to say, Ben?
I watch it on occasion, but I'm not a. I mean, in my other job right now, I've been listening to a whole bunch of the WWE games, and man, THQ made so many of them.
Okay. Well, someone who might have appeared on one of them, I don't know because I'm not a gamer, is just been announced as the fourth WWE Hall of Famer for the class of 2023. And the WWE Hall of Fame is a colossal mess because you never know. There's no pattern to it. But anyway, it's Stacy Keibler. So a very, very attractive lady who after she was done with the WWE, dated George Clooney for a while and was a guest at the Oscars. So I think she did pretty well for herself, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say so. I mean, successful wrestler, dated a celebrity,
Well, not just
and
a
it's
celebrity.
oh
The
yeah, it's not just any, it's George Clooney. It's
right.
a pretty big name, but
I mean, there's
still, it's
me, Clooney. There's few of us who look this good at this age.
hey, listen, that's true. She wrote a path for herself, and yeah,
Mhm.
very very successful woman, and congrats to her.
Yeah, she inducted. She was the inductor for Tori Wilson 2 years ago, who went to school with somebody who you peripherally, I don't know if you know her, but you'll know the name with Alicia Kramer.
Oh, I know Alicia Kramer.
Yeah. Okay. I
I
thought
know
you.
Alicia really well. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was that well, but yeah, the daughter of Jerry Kramer, who I got to interview them both. But yeah, so that's really the only actual Hall of Fame related news. But next week, the Basketball Hall of Fame, the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, I have to sort of always preface that will be making their announcement, and I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to see Vinny. We're going to play a game. Shall we play a game?
okay, Jigsaw, tell me.
Actually, that was that was actually from War Games, starring Matthew Broderick.
Okay. Matthew Broderick.
Sure. Well, okay, man. I gotta watch Jigsaw. Is that how they did this? Anyway,
No, he said, "I want to play a game."
very
And
good.
then he sent like death traps, like, and you had like
Oh no, no, I
to-
know this one. I know the plot of. No, I know all that one, but I couldn't
yeah,
remember.
Tobin Bell plays Jigsaw, who's a serial killer who puts these people in death traps. Like you
I
gotta
just
see it.
said I know the plot and I've watched them. Actually, I didn't tell you I watched them, so that's me being bad. Oh, also
I'm
too.
not a horror guy. I just know that.
Yeah. And I'm not a whore, but I could be for the right price. Anyway, uh, I do want to mention that finally, we're going to be doing next week. Even though it's going to be a loaded show and there's so much to talk about, we'll get to the fictitious athlete, the fictitious Rock and Roll Hall class of 2022. COVID, they're all afraid to come out for COVID, so the ceremony it's been delayed.
Listen, I understand with all these fictitious characters. I mean,
Yeah.
just look at the Hollywood Walk of Fame. There, Batman's taking his sweet time. I mean, he's just busy buried in that Batcave. Similar with the fictitious athletes and sports hall of fame. Same thing. They're just burying for the moment. They're just hanging out with Batman, I guess. I don't know.
I got a joke here, but I can't go with it. Anywho,
So tell
so
me afterwards.
I shall. I shall. All right. So let's go into actually who's been nominated, and probably as we're recording this, maybe a lot of these people already know that they've been elected or not. So I'm just going to go in alphabetical order, and we're just going to start off with someone who I'm not necessarily that passionate about, only because I've never seen him coach. because it was in a lower division. That's Gene Best, but he certainly seems to be a strong candidate. He coached his team to 17 NJCAA tournament appearances, 4 Final Fours, and 2 titles. Uh, Looks like a resume that could get in. Whether he does or doesn't, I don't know. What do you think? What's your
I
odds?
mean, Leda Andrews is like one of the most winningest high school basketball coaches ever. And despite being a finalist multiple times, she missed out the last couple of years. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my main question when it comes to someone like a Gene Bess.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be a longer waiting game like Leda Andrews is? But I mean, granted, because it's not just the NBA Hall of Fame, it's not just the College Hall of Fame, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame. Every single thing with the sport.
And and
Mhm.
we have to point out this isn't like the Football Hall of Fame that you and I both love very much, where we have an idea of how many people they're going to vote for. Baseball, we know that they have to hit a certain threshold. With the Basketball Hall of Fame, we know nothing. We don't know who's voting on it and what the percentage is. We don't have a clue.
I know that there's 24 voters and 18 and you need 18 yeses and out of the 24 to make it through.
Okay, is it? Okay, I wasn't even sure on that. So now who those people are, I don't know. Whether they change up, I don't know. Don't have a clue. But this is going to be sort of a hard thing. So it's 18 yeses, so they just go yes, no, I'm presuming. So this will be sort of a hard one for him, but it won't be for the next person alphabetically. And that's someone who I am huge on. Uh, and you know how I love the European basketball players. It's Pau Gasol.
Yeah, Pau Gasol, like when you look at this crop of list of players here, you notice that as to the NBA players, 3 out of the 4 are European. This shows to show the growth of the game internationally and why this is becoming more and more of an international sport. I mean, look at present day. The 3 players that are fighting for the NBA MVP, Nikola Jokic, Serbia, Joel Embiid, Cameroon, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, Greece.
Mm-hmm.
Like that alone shows the impact globally that the NBA's have. And someone like Pau Gasol, a man who is viewed as the greatest basketball player in the history of Spain,
Mm-hmm.
and successful with the Grizzlies, successful with the Lakers, won 2 championships with them, got his number retired for them. He also had some success with the Spurs and the Bulls, and he finished off his time in the NBA with, the Milwaukee Bucks, and then of course finished with, Barcelona, where he ended his career. Absolutely, no question in my eyes, Pau Gasol is a Hall of Famer.
First
There's some
ballot, I would
people,
agree, right?
yeah,
Has
yeah,
to be.
legend, impact, pioneer,
Mhm.
period.
Yep. And like you just said, they incorporate international accomplishment. Well, you didn't say that, but international accomplishments matter. And he led Spain to a lot of titles.
Like, if you look at his international career, it's even crazier. He was named the Player of the Year by the Euroscar 4 times.
Hmm.
Was also Mr. Europa Player of the Year twice, FIBA Euro Player of the Year twice, the ACB Finals MVP, Spanish King Cup Finals winner, and Finals MVP, the Liga ACB champion. Was also the FIBA Eurobasket MVP twice, and the 3-time FIBA Eurobasket top scorer 3 times.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
everything there says, yeah, legend, Hall
yeah,
of Famer, first ballot, no question.
absolutely. David Hickson, he ran Amherst for 42 years. Division 3 Coach of the Year, 800 over 800 wins. They're there. I mean, like he's a legend in this particular program. What that translates for the Hall, I don't know.
Similar situation. I mean, he has a 738 winning percentage, which
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely insane no matter how you slice it. But what was her name? Like Barbara Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
She coached that Division 2 program. Name escapes me, but it took her a little bit, but she made it. I think it'd be a similar situation with David Hickson, but this is Division 3. That was Division 2. So I do think even if he doesn't make it this year, I think he will eventually make it, but it
Mm-hmm.
might take a little bit for him.
Well, someone in Division 1, another coach, Gene Keady. So a lot with Purdue. One of the most successful coaches of that program, Coach of the Year, winningest coach in Purdue history, 6 Big Ten titles. 7 Big Ten Coach of the Years, already in the College Basketball Hall of Fame. So like that's pretty big. So
I think
go ahead.
I think he, considering he's already in the College Basketball Hall of Fame,
Mhm.
and considering he was with Purdue for that long, he's 86 years old. He's getting up there. I feel pretty confident that I think he's going to make it.
I
I'm
agree with
confident
you.
that he'll make the best.
I
I feel he
agree.
might make it this year.
I think they're going to. Another definite lock. Okay, I'm gonna not do. I'm gonna skip a bit about something in the alphabet just because I want to do these two back to back. If Pau Gasol is a lock, and I think you think so, I think so, I think most people do. There's two players actually on the pecking order ahead of him, which would
Mhm.
be Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade.
Oh yeah, like I had both of these two behind me. Now, Pat Gasol, I think, is a no question first ballot Hall of Famer.
Mhm.
If those two are no question, if he's a no question first ballot Hall of Famer, these two should not even be a question in anyone's mind.
I don't see
Dwayne
how they're
Wade,
not, right?
like, do I really need to say the accomplishments? Like Dwayne Wade, you're talking about a man who
Let's
was,
run them pretty quick, right? Because I mean, I think
yeah,
everyone knows what they are. We've got like 1A, 1B.
yeah, basically.
He was an MVP. Wade was not, was he?
He was not an MVP, but he was Finals MVP in 2006, where the Heat did beat the Mavericks. But don't feel bad for Dirk. He returned the favor in 2011 when his team, the underdog Mavericks, defeated the heavily favored Miami Heat.
Mhm.
That was the big three with James, Wade, and Bosh. And I don't need to tell you their accomplishments. I don't need to tell you their legacy. Two of the very, very best in the game, both in the 75th anniversary team. No question, two of the greatest to ever do it.
So here's two questions for you. One, a statement, and then you can either say I'm right or wrong. I'm not offended whether you say I'm right, whether you disagree with me. In my last basketball rankings, I had Nowitzki ahead of Wade. I think he was slightly better overall. Uh, but actually, I guess the second thing is a sort of thing whether I'm going to ask if you agree with me or not. And I said the same thing to Evan when we looked at the finalists. Uh, as much as I think Nowitzki was the better player, Wade's going to be the headliner, and he was the
I think
final
so too.
spot. All right, so you would agree? Would you agree with both things, or do you have Wade as a
I
better
I
player?
I think Nowitzki was a bigger player, a better player, and a more impactful player for what he did worldwide, especially for basketball in the country of Germany. Uh, the that being said, Dwayne Wade was also someone who was known for being the teammate of Shaquille O'Neal, a teammate of LeBron James, the co-owner of the Utah Jazz. I
Let's
think
forget about that.
with that alone, and also him being someone who went to 5 finals as a player, winning 3 of them, I think, especially with the sport being focused in America, they're going to push Dwayne Wade more because he was a bigger star here in the States. Nowitzki was bigger elsewhere, but Wade was more of the attention for most people. So I think it would be Dwayne Wade.
There you go. No, I agree with that because he was the bigger star. Now, here's someone I could go 50-50 on whether he's going to get in right away, and that is from France. Uh, Maybe the worst French rapper of all time, but best French basketball player. That would be Tony Parker, four-time NBA champion, MVP in the final. Parker is super good. He's going to get in the Hall of Fame at one point, but is it on his first try?
Yes.
Really? Okay, you're that emphatic on that?
Oh, I'm confident because this is not like a 2020 situation where they
Okay.
wanted to make it just, Brian, Garnett, and Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely see Tony Parker making it. And how could you say no to his resume? 6 All-Star appearances, 4 All NBA teams, 4 championships, Finals MVP, numbers retired, been the top scorer and Player of the Year, and Eurostar multiple times, and is the president of the ASVEL. That's the that's the head that's a basketball league over in France. His teams have won 4 times. It was also a French Cup winner twice. Like if you look at his time both as a player and as a president of a team, you look at success and you see someone who, just like how Parker Parker is with France as Nowitzki was with Germany and how Gasol was with Spain. Legends for their countries, legends for the growth of the game in their countries. Again, making the sport from what was originally thought as more a national pastime. People like Parker and whatnot show that it's way more of an becoming more and more of an international pastime as time goes on. And I'm really, really happy to see that. So no question, he's definitely a first ballot in my eyes.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, this might be our first disagreement. Not that I don't agree with him in the Hall. I have a feeling he's not.
I would not be shocked if he misses out on the first ballot,
Yeah.
though. For me personally, I would have
Okay.
no issue with him
Okay.
getting it.
Well, what do you think will happen?
I think he will make it first ballot. I think,
Okay.
though, out of all the four NBA players, he's the one I think is most likely to miss out on the first ballot.
Fair. Okay, I agree. So then we have an active coach, Greg Popovich.
Uh,
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. So
yeah, like
Pop will get in. Bigger, I'd say a bigger star, if you want to use the star rating, star quota, than Tony Parker.
was yeah, I'd say so. Popovich is viewed as he has more wins than anyone else in NBA history. He's been a part of the Spurs franchise for something like 30 plus years.
Mhm.
And the fact that he's still coaching in the NBA right now, and because he's been coaching for so long, and for an active coach, it's 25 years. That speaks about how dominant Greg Popovich has been for the NBA.
Mhm.
But countless winnings. What is it like 20? He had like what 24 out of 25 seasons his teams made the postseason.
Well,
You
I guess
had
24 out of 26.
yeah 24 out of 26 now
Yeah,
because they
that's
just
gonna
missed it
come,
now.
right? Yeah.
Which is unprecedented dominance. A streak of 22 to make the playoffs.
Hmm.
You also had countless division titles, countless winning
National.
seasons. Yeah,
Hmm.
many many great rivalries with teams like the Suns and the Lakers and the Heat and whatnot. Of course, 6 NBA Finals appearances and of course 5 NBA championships. Also gold medalist too. If you want to focus that for Greg Popovich, like if you want something for resume, he's got it all. Like you could make an argument honestly that Greg Popovich is like the best candidate here, period, and that's including players. You can
Hmm.
make a real case for that because just the longevity of his career, the impact that he's had on coaching, the fact he has more wins than anyone else speaks
Yeah.
volumes.
All right. So let's just go also quickly through the women's candidates. We have Jennifer Atzi, former 1990 Naismith College Player of the Year. Didn't do a whole lot as a pro, but to be fair, she couldn't
Yeah, she
because
couldn't. That's not her fault.
yeah, because like her peak sort of started to peter off when the WNBA began. I'm pretty sure this is her first time as a finalist. We've got Gary Blair, coach for Texas,
Yeah.
uh, pretty good candidate. But I think the most interesting one, and I'll get to the other one after, but to me is Becky Hammon. Becky Hammon is she a 6-time WNBA All Star, uh, a true trailblazer, and Vinny, this is gonna like I already know that you know more than probably most people that I talk to about Halls of Fame, and you're under 25, which is freaky. And this is going to become one of your new fields of expertise, that being women's basketball with one of the positions that you're going to be having. Uh,
Yeah.
so with Becky Hammon, here we have someone who is on. There have been better players than her, but
Yeah.
nobody has ever become a better coach that was respected in turn by the men. Nobody. Becky Hammon
Yeah.
was the first assistant coach of an NBA team by the Spurs. Talking about it could be interesting. We've got Popovich, Hammon, and Parker going at the same time, so it could be a pure San Antonio affair here. But what this? How do I put this? All right, I'll say this. I don't care how this sounds. When Haley Wickenheiser was put in charge of Canada hockey, part of me was going like, Okay, I know what a great player she was, but has she really necessarily proven herself as an executive? And she really hadn't. Basketball's sort of weird too, because remember, we're not that far removed from Steve Nash becoming a head coach and something that he had never coached before, even though he was a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Exactly, turn out great for him.
Becky Hammon walked in there, commanded respect. I have never come across, and there very well might be many, but or like issues where there were problems from the players having Becky there. Have you ever heard anything? I never have.
For a woman, I can't recall personally.
Yeah,
I can't because that's Becky Hammon as a player. Were there better WNBA players during her time that are some not all? Yes, I would
sure.
make an argument.
She's got the add-ons.
However, there's something that's a little different with Becky Hammon that she has than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's a pioneer. Again, first ever full-time female assistant coach in NBA history. She's someone that got very serious looks for becoming an NBA head coach.
By Portland not that long ago.
Yeah, but Portland, Chauncey Billups, who he might make the Hall of Fame one day,
Good.
got in before. So then Becky said, "Okay, I'll join the Las Vegas Aces." So Bill and Beer are retired, and so she took that team, and as her first year on the job, they go to the championship and they win it.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, as soon as it happened, I said she was already a Hall of Famer in my eyes. This just, yeah, no question. This should make her first ballot.
Objectively, yes. Now, one quick question. Now, she did compete for Russia when she wasn't no longer good enough to make the U.S. team. Do you think there might be a voter or two that just holds out against her?
No,
Okay.
no. But Becky Hammon, her impact as a pioneer, her impact as
I
just
thought I'd throw it out there, see what you thought.
oh no, don't worry. And also, you are mentioning about the San Antonio aspect too. Yeah, like you have Tony Parker, Greg Popovich, and you have Becky Hammon, who was a former player for the San Antonio Silver Stars, who's now, of course, the Las Vegas Aces.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would definitely agree with you. The fact that San Antonio's gonna be very, very well represented, and it's a pretty quality trio right there. And
I might be going to my first WNBA game. I'm planning to go to Vegas to celebrate eventually my post-dated 50th. And since there's
nice,
not a lot of sports going on, maybe I'll go to an Aces game.
yeah, Candace Parker's there now.
Well, I plan to do, and I was inspired by Jack Black. He said he was going to do like 50 cool things when he turned 50, and I think he did that in Disneyland or something. So I'm gonna do 50 cool ass things in Las Vegas, and maybe one of those other things that will be sort of post dated. I might join you and Paul. I don't know yet. I'm
Yeah,
kicking
that
that
sounds
around.
pretty cool.
I'm kicking that around. And what I'm referring to is looks like Vinny and Paul Lawrence, who co-hosts another show with me that I'm going to promote later. Uh, we finally recorded episode 2. Thank God. Uh,
Earlier than never.
Football Hall of Fame. Yeah, eventually, right? Uh, but yeah, I guess I'll finish off here. We have one final person, Marion Washington, coach, guided University of Kansas for 31 years, and I don't know. I don't see there's not a
Uh,
title there, so that's going
I
to be
mean,
kind of tough.
she could make it, but like
I don't care.
personally, I don't have much of a passion for her. Like
I don't either.
again, when it comes to any of this stuff, my focus is on contributors or like international people or really, really old players. So like Washington is not really on my radar. I can't see her making it this year.
I'd agree with you. All right, so, like, what do we think? 7-person class?
Not true. I do think we will have a class of in terms of this list.
Hmm.
I see all the players. I see Popovich. I see several of the women, so I could see like 7, 8,
Hmm.
maybe pushing at 9 potentially.
Okay.
And that's just the North American section. For those that don't know,
Yep.
the Basketball Hall of Fame does something that I like because they have multiple committees.
So tell everyone about what those committees are, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun with that. You're going to make a prediction of one person in each of those committees. Sound good? I'm
Sounds
not,
good
because you
to
know
me.
this better than I do.
Okay, so for those that don't know, the Basketball Hall of Fame, what I really like about it is the fact that they have multiple committees of who could make the Hall of Fame. Now, changes every year. Some have been finalists in the past, some aren't this year. Like in the past, you had like Kirk Gowdy and whatnot as finalists. For some reason this year they're not, which is kind of weird because they've been finalists multiple times, and I definitely think they're Hall of Fame worthy. Obviously. And also in the past they had the African American pioneers. They've
Mhm,
had that for a number of years, but for some reason this year they don't have it. They just kind of bled it into the seniors. So I'm kind of mixed about that.
mhm.
But to get some, you take some, you get some, you lose some, I guess.
But maybe they're
So
sort of like, thinking that they've combined with, maybe they're following the baseball lead. Because if you look at some of the, like one of the past senior committees, that was the first time they incorporated uh, players from the former Negro leagues in like a giant senior committee. That never happened before.
yeah, I can maybe see something like that. I mean,
Okay,
but
maybe that was their thought process. We don't know because as much as you like all those other committees, the transparency of this is not good.
no, that's my main. As much as I love a lot of the stuff that basketball has to offer, my
Mhm.
main criticism has always been their lack of transparency compared to other halls of fame. That's not saying that I think Cooperstown, Toronto, or Canton were the most transparent organizations in the world, but they at
No,
least
they're
had.
not. But Springfield's the worst.
Oh yeah, Springfield's definitely the worst. I do like how they do it the most, but I also don't like how
Right.
they do it.
Okay.
So
So let's start off with okay, which division here? Hard
uh, we start.
go.
There's the international direct elect, and they choose one person. I personally think it's so large you could do more than that, but a
Right.
lot of people go with like a player here. A lot of people go with a
Piles
coach,
upon
but
piles of nominees, by the way, too. I mean, like we're talking about scores upon scores, score, and many years ago when they played.
oh, so
So
many.
yeah, so like if Vinny gets them all wrong, don't say think hey, Vinny doesn't know stuff. Vinny has
No.
to pick. I have putting Vinny on the spot here to pick like one out of piles, right? I'm asking you essentially to pick needles in a haystack 4 times. And if you get one of those 4 needles,
Oh yeah, I can't tell you firsthand of who I think they're going to go for. I'm
okay,
going to go
well,
based off of
okay,
who.
let's back up. I want you to do 2 things. Who do you want and who do you think?
Okay, for international,
Hmm?
the one that I want is Shimon Mizari. Now, for those that don't know who he is, he's the
Myself included.
chairman. He's been the chairman of the Maccabi Tel Aviv basketball club
Ah,
for many, many, many years, like almost 50 years now. Like, if you know about Maccabi Tel Aviv, they are the premier basketball program in all of Israel. You have
and soccer
four,
too.
oh yeah, 44 Super League champions, 44 of them. He's the chairman. 36 Israeli state cups, 5 EuroLeague championships, 7 Israeli Cup winners. He's been on this position for ages.
Didn't
And
Amari
he
Stoudemire go to play there?
he actually is now an Orthodox Jew. I'm not even joking.
Wow.
He actually just like how you hear about players that become Muslim, well, he became Jewish.
All right. I'm a little
Now,
unorthodox myself.
yeah, that's who I personally really want to see. But
Okay.
as for who I think they go with,
Yeah, yeah.
I think they're going to go with a coach here, and I
Mhm.
think the guy they would probably go with is probably Dusan Ikovic, who, in case you don't know who that is, because I don't think people know who he is, he was the coach of Russia for many years. The Russian, not Russia, Serbia. I'm thinking of Russia because like, well, so
If it
Russia.
ends in a
Uh,
C, it's got to be in the former Yugoslavia.
yes,
Yeah.
Dusan Ikovic. He's in the FIBA Hall of Fame as a coach,
Hmm.
four-time Greek Cup winner, three-time Greek Cup champion. He was listed as one of the 50 greatest EuroLeague contributors. He won the EuroLeague Basketball Legend Award, as well as the Piva Ikovic Award for Lifetime Achievement. Coach of the Year. He's got an incredible resume. I would have no issue with any of these people, but I think he's more likely because he died in 2021, so I think he might be more fresher in people's minds.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. All right. What else we got?
The next group is the Women's Veterans Committee. Now, again, this is a list of teams, and it's not just players, but it's also some teams and some
Right.
coaches. No contributors though, unfortunately, as much as that pains me to say, but you know, it is what it is. I have no idea who they'd go with personally because they kind
Okay.
of all gel together, but I would take a guess and say that the 1976 US Olympic team, they'd probably go with.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's what I think they'd probably go with for the US Olympic team because, you
I
know,
wonder how many are
one
still alive. Hopefully most.
so most I would assume. I'm just to check to see if any of them are still alive.
Yeah, nah, that's okay. Don't worry about that. All right. So like, what's the next one?
Okay, the next one is contributor, and oh my god,
Okay.
this
I
is my
gotta, I
this
gotta
is
guess who I've got a couple guesses who you're thinking, well, in my head, but go ahead. Maybe it's somebody you've already talked about on Vinny Makes the Hall of Fame Case 4.
actually there's no one here in this one because of the just contributor direct elect. In case you're curious
Oh,
about who I'd be wanting, they're not on. They're not there.
but
The contributor direct.
Leo's or is he in the veterans
He's
one?
in the veterans section. We'll get to that in a bit.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad.
He
I
he's in
told
the
you, Vinny
veterans.
knows more than I do.
Yeah.
That'll be the
Um.
next show that we're gonna title. It's gonna be called Vinny Knows More Than Kirk.
Well, we'll save that for later.
Yeah,
Um.
there you go.
But again, similar situation. Like there's such a large selection. I'm gonna go with a name. I'm not gonna go with a player in particular, but I'm actually gonna go with a player that fits in this contributor mold. Curly Neal. He just died recently.
Uh, okay.
He just died recently. This is the first time he's here on the list. I think he has a real good case, and he'd be someone I would personally be really big on. If
Okay.
not him, I would maybe make a case for maybe Dennis Murphy, one of
Hmm.
the founders of the ABA, one of the people that made the 3-point line a thing. He also was very significant in the development of the WHA, for those that don't know.
Hmm. Okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
that would be who I go with. I
that's up
think
my,
Curly.
yeah. No, I'm very familiar, with his work in the WHA as a Canadian. So,
Mhm.
all right, I like that. Okay, and what else?
Okay, then direct elect. Oh boy. Only one person out of this monster list, this massive list. I can't personally choose one, so screw it. I'll just go with who I want.
Okay.
Leroy Edwards. I'm gonna go with Leroy here, because it's
Mhm.
the obvious one. But I personally feel like knowing the basketball hall, they'd probably go with someone who's a bit more modern. So I'd say if not him or Zavzlowski or Ferris, as much as I would want them to have, because I'm not as confident in them making it right now, I'm gonna go on a limb and say, you know what? Uh, I'm 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 gonna go with someone like I don't know, really anyone. There's so many choices that I personally really can't choose one
Mhm.
because it could really be anyone at this point.
I also want to point out that Vinny also made a Hall of Fame case on his show for Leroy Edwards. You should really check out. Uh,
Frank Lubin's not on here, and I made a case for him too.
yeah. Well, tell everyone who Frank Lubin is, because they
Frank
may not know.
Frank Lubin was the person that was responsible for making basketball a national pastime in Lithuania.
Mhm.
He was someone that also coached and um, was a part of their team for two gold medal teams. Like he literally made the sport a national thing over there, like
Yeah.
huge. But
Yeah.
as for who I think they go with for here, I have no idea because it's like picking hairs at this point when it comes to this
Do
one.
we have any others? I don't think so, do we?
Unfortunately, because they got rid of the African American pioneers,
Mhm.
unfortunately, no. They
Okay.
also had one for veteran. Oh yeah, I already said the woman's direct. Like I already said that, but that's just my thoughts on it.
Mhm.
That's so I see a class of around like 14, 16. I'm pushing for like another 16 person class, which of course I would like because that would include more contributors. But that's just my thoughts.
Yeah.
Could really be anyone at this point. I don't know. Oh, this is who I think would probably have the best chance. Dick Barnett. Dick Barnett, he was a member of the New York Knicks and was a
Yeah.
part of, I forgot the team it was, the name off the top of my head, but three championships in college. And his team made it. I think he'll make it, especially if there's no African American, committee, which he was a part of. Because he's in here, I think the focus would probably shift to him potentially.
Right. Okay. Okay, so our next section, I wish this is where Evan is always sort of like the best at this, where we look at those who we lost along the way. And Evan, he does this so well, right? Because like he's got this kindness for all these people he's never met. I'm horrible at it. So you're gonna have to sort of like pretend to be what I do, which is usually say something smart assish.
Well, as for the one that, if you're just talking about just this month alone, several notable names. Otis Taylor, the former Kansas
Yeah,
City
we've
Chief.
already done that. This is from the past week since we last did a show.
Well, Willis Reed
Okay,
died a few days
I
ago.
know this. This is where you respond to what I say.
It's Will. I
I
didn't see last week's show. Hey, listen, I'm busy myself, but
know.
Willis Reed, of course, NBA's 75th anniversary team member.
We're closing with Willis Reed. He's the
Oh,
headliner. Okay, think
oh,
of this as when you watch the Oscars and you do an in memoriam, and they always like save the best, like the most famous actor who died last.
like when they finish off with like Kirk
Right.
Douglas, for instance.
Yes, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, okay. So one person that died recently.
I'm the leader of this. I'm telling you who's all died.
Okay, tell me.
Okay, but before we do that, I have to tell you about the Beige Mistress, and you're going to cast her. Now, when we started doing this, Evan and I, Evan noticed because like this is Evan's baby. Evan sees dead people.
What is he? Haley Joel Osment?
I was sort of waiting for you to like say something to that, but yes, there might be sort of a similar look. I don't know. Well, no. Have you seen what Haley Joel Osment looks like now?
Yeah, he looks like a homeless person.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Man,
But he,
man,
but he,
child fame really hits you pretty hard, especially if your adult career is not as successful.
yeah, but he's not embarrassing himself.
I mean, his sister Emily was on Hannah Montana for a number of years. I remember her from that.
I will take your. No, I do not remember her. I wasn't watching Hannah.
That's what I remember. I know you don't remember, but I remember. That's what
All
I
right.
personally. So
Okay. Well, here's what Evan figured out. There's a beige mistress, and this is actually my coin, right? So like he figured out that for whatever reason, every time we started doing this, it's always been Hungarian athletes who died. So you know, Black Widow, I came up with the beige mistress.
beige mistress.
The beige mistress. I first said, okay, well, maybe it could be Florence Pugh, but now she's in the MCU. So who's a young kick-ass actress who could play an evil villain who kills Hungarian athletes? I'll leave that to you.
I mean, everyone loves Jenna Ortega right now, but she's not. But she's Hispanic. She's not, Eastern European. So not really.
Doesn't necessarily. Well, maybe she has a thing against Hungarians. I don't know. Come up
I
with a
mean,
backstory.
she plays Wednesday Addams in that new show. So like
Okay, now
maybe
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, because I had no idea who you were who you were referring to. All right, so we'll float that. We're gonna do once the Bucknerverse expands into sort of like a film thing. I'm leaving it to you to reach out to this lady, Jenny Ortega, to be the beige mistress.
I'll make sure to ask her and see if the. I mean, she was very reluctant in even doing Wednesday, so this might be. And she said yes to it. So who knows? Maybe she'll say yes. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if these two Hungarians died on a Wednesday. No? Okay.
They might have died like the 11th hour and 59th minute or something. I don't know.
Well, they might have. Well, we lost two Hungarian athletes. Katlina Benko, she competed in the Olympics in '64 in the sprint canoe, finished seventh. And Saba Zako, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, she won silver in the 1967 rowing championship. So the beige mistress has been busy.
Well, you got to give some attention to those more niche sports. And what better country than Hungary? They
This is
love their rolling.
this is our
This
big thing that Evan. This is all Evan. He figured this stuff out, and it's like, damn, he's right. I mean, Hungary is one of those countries that produce a lot of great athletes, but you never think of them because none of those of sports they're good at are something that we give a crap about in North America, bluntly.
Yeah, like Hungary is not really one that I usually think of in terms of great athletic achievements, but they've had a lot of amazing athletes. It's just that
Mhm.
the sports they're really big in are just not exactly sports that here in America most
Yeah,
really care as much about.
yeah, of
That's not saying they're not good at it. No, they have been, but
course they
like
have.
but they're just not big for us.
Well, there's another Olympian who didn't win something, but it's sad when somebody dies this young. A gentleman named Pavel Krotov. He died at 30, and he was a Russian freestyle skier in aerials, and he died of a brain hemorrhage. That's kind of
I
shitty.
heard about this.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I did hear about this recently. He would have turned 31 a month from now, actually.
Hmm.
Um, he died in his sleep, from what I know.
I did read that. Yeah. The funny thing is, if anyone else said that, I wouldn't believe them. But when it comes from you, I totally believe it. That you heard
Yeah.
it. But yeah, that is what happened. We lost a former NHL player, a gentleman named Dave Gardner, played 14 years in the NHL for Montreal, St. Louis, and Philadelphia, but also two teams that don't exist anymore: the California Golden Seals and the Cleveland Barons.
Technically the same franchise, if we're really being honest, because California moved to Cleveland and then they just got absorbed. They got eaten alive by the Minnesota North. I was
The
like,
fact that you know that is so impressive. But yes, that is true.
yes. And, the Golden Seals, listen, can you blame them? The logo has a seal. The seal doesn't have any thumbs. How can he hold the stick? And
I grew up near Toronto. It was a maple leaf. Not
okay,
only
good,
is
good point.
right,
Good
but it was
point.
a maple leaf. The maple leaves in the winter are not actually even alive on the tree. It is
Well,
the
the
least
Maple Leafs just
intimidating
they
name
they
in hockey.
they make sure to save for it after spring happens. Usually when the
Yeah,
leaves,
but that's usually when they're at their worst.
I know that's the ironic part, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
But
here's
but
some. Go ahead.
but yeah, as for Dave Gardner, I mean, that's he's definitely a nice little trivia question for him. He also played in the SUI, in the HAC VSIP, which is a Swiss league.
How do you know have all
He
this ready?
I just knew about the name. He knew about these. He was part of a Swiss team for a number of years. So yeah, for all you fans of him that are from Switzerland and Visp, I'd say I don't know what language they say predominantly in Switzerland, but I'm sure they're definitely mourning his loss too. Potentially, I don't know. I'm not from
Four different main
Switzerland.
languages in Switzerland.
The one of the main languages I know is German,
Well, that's the
Italian,
only main language that's important.
German.
Yes. We also lost a former NFL player, a former 9-year defensive tackle for Buffalo Bills, Mike Kaddish. Never was a
Mike,
Pro Bowler, but if you played 9 years in the NFL at defensive tackle, that's pretty impressive.
I'm happy for him. Listen, he got a chance to play professional football at the highest level,
Hmm.
um, which more than I'll ever say. I don't exactly have the have the
You got the
muscle
height, buddy.
mass.
You got the height, buddy. I mean, you've got me beat by 8 inches, maybe in other places too.
I got the height, but that doesn't mean I'm a good basketball player, for instance.
That's all right. Okay, and we have a national champion from UTEP, William Cager, or it might be Kager, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing this wrong. He died at 80, but he was a member of the minors national championship team, men's basketball. Uh, Here's one I found really interesting. Actually, and I just want to give credit here because like Evan sent a lot of these to me because he knows that this is not usually my cup of tea. But he set me up for success on this one. So thanks, brother. Two sports superstar Dot Wilkinson at age 101. Dot is she's in the International Bowling and National Softball Hall of Fame. Pretty good.
Awesome, awesome.
All right, so we're going to go back to Reed. He's going to be our hammer later. So in the world of music, we lost someone from a band called Hawkwind that I kind of like, although he wasn't part of this band when the band was at their peak. A gentleman named Mick Slattery. Uh, you know who Andrew Lloyd Webber is, right?
Of course, New Angel Webber.
Well, this
I know that when he divorced his second wife, he was hitting on one of my friend's one of my the mother of one of my friends because he's British, and she was part of Cats back in like the 90s, and he was trying to hit on her because
Because he's
he would look
British?
no because she looked like his ex, so he was hitting on her.
Work?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
No,
That was
no,
that's
I
that,
know.
that
I believe you. Did it work?
no.
Oh, all right.
He was
Well,
unsuccessful. He was
well,
unsuccessful.
his son, less successful, Nick Lloyd Webber, died at 43 of gastric cancer.
Ugh.
18-month battle. Eesh, you know, so unfortunately,
Man, this got really dark very quickly. I mean,
we're talking about dead people, so it generally
I know,
does.
but gotta lighten the mood a little bit. But you know, he did work with his father. Um, Afterwards, he also did the score of several things like Control Z, Last Bus. It's another one.
He's basically he is the Bronny James of composing.
He definitely seems like someone that kind of got his start because of his last name. That's not saying he didn't have any skill or anything, but it definitely didn't hurt to
Well,
have
yeah,
that.
but it just gives you a head up. There were a lot of people who could have had Charlie Sheen's career, but Charlie Sheen had a head up because he was the son of Martin Sheen. It's not a bad thing, just is what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, here's the last person in music. I find this one kind of interesting. You probably don't know what he is. I didn't either. But a country singer named Ray Pillow at age 85 died.
oh, Ray Pillow died.
You know who that is?
I've heard the name because his name's Pillow.
Jesus.
Whenever I think of the term pillow, I always think of the guy that runs
If you
the
say
guy
my
that's
pillow, I'm canceling this.
what
If you say my pillow, I'm canceling this.
I'm not gonna say it, but let's just say let's just say let's just say what would happen if Mario decided to take a job in plumbing and instead of plumbing he decided to sell pillows? I don't know.
Mario pillow. Is that where we're going with this?
Oh,
Oh,
it's me like Lindell.
God damn. Okay.
I listen. I had to. When your last name is Pillow, I just think of that. I'm
Well,
sorry.
he's dead at age 85, and his biggest hit, I can't think of a bigger country music title better than this. Went number 9 on the country charts, and it's called I'll Take the Dog.
Did that with Gene Shepard.
Obviously, you're prepping, but yes, yes, that is the case. So I listened to it today. That was pretty. I, I'm not a country music guy, but here being here in Winnipeg, and I've gone to a few more country shows and sort of like gotten some fake cowboy boots out, and whatnot. Anywho,
I thought that stuff's usually in Calgary.
well, yeah, but I'm not living in Calgary, so I got to sort of like go do with the whole prairie. The term prairie oyster, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, well, prairie oyster, for those who aren't, it's basically cow shit. It's prairie oyster. So we lost a couple of people in the world of entertainment. Norman Steinberg, who you may not know, he's the co-writer of Blazing Saddles, and he wrote a few other films that all stunk. Anyway, he's dead at 83. And this is one I love that Evan. I love that you sent this to me. At age 54 and at 4'4" is Paul Grant. He was a little person actor, and he played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi because I think he sent this to me because he knows how much I love Star Wars. But he was also a stunt double for Hoggle and Labyrinth. And I know that my partners on the How the Hell Did This Go #1 show would love this because they quote Labyrinth all the time.
I wonder what Jim Henson would think if he was alive and he saw it. What about or David Bowie, for instance, because that was something that they made back in the '80s with TriStar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Bowie is a god to me. So we have a few more to go through. And someone who might be a god to you. In media, Jerry Green. He is the only sports writer to cover the first 56 Super Bowls, and he's a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame in that category for 2005. You being a budding media superstar, I'm sure there's some things that you might want to say about Mr. Green.
Well, first off, it's he was awarded by the Hall. He was not inducted into the Hall. That's very different. Which I
But
understand.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is a man who has seen he's been to every single Super Bowl.
Hmm.
Every single Super Bowl. Just think about that for a second. He's been to every single Super Bowl, obviously not now, but
So then not every
very
single.
very successful with Detroit News for going back to the 60s, and the Associated Press for going back even further to the 50s.
Hmm.
Like, he's the only sports writer to cover all the first 56 Super Bowls. He was not able to go to 57 because of his illness, which eventually took his life. But still, to say that you covered every single Super Bowl, and he even documented what it was like when he went to like the first Super Bowl. Remember, it was not filled. There were still a lot of empty seats in the first ever Super Bowl.
Oh, I know, because I wanted to do a review on that and I couldn't.
Well, one of those seats that were not empty were taken by Jerry Green.
Yep. Yeah. So no, so that's a pretty big one. I thought that was something important for you. So we had a few other people before we get to Willis Reed. Uh, Chen Kenichi. He was the only permanent Iron Chef. He was Iron Chef China from that. You ever watch Iron Chef?
Well, I grew up watching Alton Brown on Good Eats, so I definitely saw a little bit of Iron Chef.
Okay. Well, Iron Chef was a pretty cool show that I used to watch many, many moons ago. He passed away. The first ever Miss Universe from the Caribbean, Marisol Malloret. I don't know. I may be pronouncing that wrong. From 1970, from Puerto Rico. Incidentally, Miss Barbados 2020 follows my dog on Instagram.
Marisol sounds like a type of cleaning spray.
Well, she's not cleaning anymore. Uh, I don't know. Uh, what? At age
Hey,
98,
listen, I'm shaming myself for it.
okay. I didn't say that I was the most sensitive person for this. I'm Evan does this 1,000 times better than I, and I'm sure he's going to tell me when he comes back.
My humor's way edgier too.
I've never said that and never thought that. But anyway,
No, I'm saying my personal humor
your
is
personal
a lot
one,
edgier.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Usually
way
I'm
edgier.
back. Well, we lost another one from the world of dance. Stuart Hodes. I hope I'm saying that right. He was a respected dancer and choreographer, and like in the world, so he passed away at age 98. So, very important person in that world, and someone who I hope I'm doing this right for Evan, because when he sent this to me, this whole list, he said this is one of his favorite writers, and it's John Jakes, and I am familiar with him. My parents, one sec, love you, mom and dad, who are because they're both no longer with us. And again, Vinny, thank you. You were very kind in the last 6 months, checking out
Anytime.
they were passing away. They John had a lot of books that came out in the 60s and 70s. Uh, there was one 8 book series. It was all bestsellers about the Kent family chronicles, like the Bastard, the American. Like, it was like I remember seeing them all dog-eared in my dad sort of like shelf or my mom's slap combined. Anyway, and also the North and South trilogy.
Yeah,
So,
the Civil War it was
yeah,
about.
so very, very accomplished author, very successful author, probably one of the more successful ones in the 70s, 80s combined. And he passed away at age 90. So, and we have one final person to talk about that you kind of blew at the beginning because anyway, it's all good. Willis Reed is our most famous name. As you were mentioning, a member of the 50th and 75th anniversary NBA anniversary team. Uh, the person who, when the Knicks drafted him, that was the catalyst to getting them their first and only 2 titles that they have. Former MVP, former Rookie of the Year, former MVP finalist. So not
Twice.
twice, yes, thank you. Because in both the Knicks wins, member of the College Basketball Hall of Fame, from his work in Grambling State, and member of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. So a very important person who I was a little dismayed, maybe not as much as yourself, because you're bigger on this stuff than I am. He didn't get enough press, I thought, after he passed.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly thrilled about. I mean, there was a lot more here in New York, but there still wasn't that much.
Oh, okay, yeah,
There, there,
yeah, because you're in
there
Long
there still
Island.
wasn't that
Sure,
much
yeah.
because I think because he was like the rearview mirror and he wasn't like the Bill Russells or the Wilt Chamberlains, and because he wasn't as big, But the thing too is like he's only one of a few guys to have won more than one Finals MVP award. I mean, that's not that stuff doesn't grow on cheese. There's only a few people to ever say that. Like
One
Jordan,
being Kawhi.
James,
Kawhi.
yeah, Kawhi Leonard, Kawhi Leonard as well. You know,
Only
Kevin
one to
Durant
do
only
it with two
twice.
different teams. I just want to point out.
Yeah, two different teams. Him and LeBron James, the ones to do it with more than one team. I mean, Willis Reed was the Finals MVP for not one but both of the Knicks' only championships,
Yeah.
and was and I think I'm going to list all the names that have multiple Finals MVPs. Michael Jordan with 6, LeBron James with 4, Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, and Tim Duncan with 3. And then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, and Willis Reed. Willis Reed, in particular, was the first one to ever win it more than once, 70 and 73. So you're talking about someone that is in that conversation with all these icons, all these legends. And he was able to do it before they were able to have a chance. So
Right. No,
yeah, like
it's
do
very
not
impressive.
underestimate his impact or his credit, his legacy. Like it's a legendary career.
No, very very much so. And R.I.P. Willis Reed, one of the best ever. So there's two more sections left. Well, there's only really one more section. Usually we close off with where I do an elevator up, elevator down, and Evan does his good, bad, ugly of the week. He's not here, so we're not going to be doing that. But elevator up, elevator down, for those who are not aware, I look at the past week or whenever we last record and say, like, who's made a really good Hall of Fame case and who hasn't.
Elevator up, elevator down.
And I envision this as sort of this great building in Gotham or wherever the hell it might be, right? And you have to get in that building, it's hard, but even to get in that elevator, yeah, it's great. But there's this velvet rope, right? And it's you ever watch Friday?
I know about Friday. I know about Friday. Never seen Friday.
You see Friday? Okay, you gotta watch Friday. That's your homework. And basically Debo is there.
It's the Ice Cube movie, right?
Yes. And Debo's the one who says, okay, you get to go through or not. That's sort of my Hall of Fame elevator in my head. So we've got a couple, they're all elevator ups. But really one's a question because technically nothing he does now is an elevator up because he doesn't qualify. You and I are one of the few people, I don't want to say few people, I don't know if that's true or not. I was enamored with the World Baseball Classic. I know you were also, based on your Twitter work. So here's my question for you. If I was a Baseball Hall of Fame voter, which I will never be, so I'm not going to put in the work to become one,
And
frankly.
even then, I don't. You don't want to give up your credibility.
Well said. But even if okay, Shohei Ohtani right now, from what he has done, and again, why I say he's not eligible right now, because you have to have played 10 years in the majors. Shohei's not even close to that yet. Shohei Ohtani is the most exciting baseball player in my lifetime. In your lifetime too, but it's more impressive in my lifetime because I'm an old shit and you're not. Fair to say?
I think it's fair.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this. So I'll see if you agree with me. If Shohei Ohtani sort of like in the next 2 years can't play anymore due to, I don't know, what happened to Kirby Puckett, for example, he just had to quit. Do you sort of like sign a petition or you say like, look, this guy's a baseball Hall of Famer right now? I would.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I thought you'd say that.
The reason why is because I understand that for baseball to talk about the national game, you know my stance on that. I've never looked at it that way.
Right.
Like I'm someone that wants to see Japanese guys make the
Mhm.
Baseball Hall of Fame. I'm for international greats making the Baseball Hall of Fame. And for me,
Mhm.
while yes, Ichiro Suzuki is someone who may be known for his time with the Mariners and whatnot, I look at his entire career going back to when he was in Japan, and I factor everything.
Okay. Okay.
Same with
Okay.
Otani. Same.
Okay. But to be fair, see, this is where you and I differ. I've got no problem because of the main word before the Baseball Hall of Fame, which is national. So they're only focusing on what you do here in terms of the United States / Canada and the majors.
Yeah,
So I don't have a problem with the Baseball Hall of Fame voter saying, I don't care what you did in Japan. And in theory, it means that would also translate in the WBC. Saying that, the biggest word in Baseball Hall of Fame to me is the word fame.
I agree.
So if that's the case, right now, over the last 2 years, and there are other players who have been like the best player, like Dale Murphy might, comes to mind, who was the best player for a 2 year period and is not going to sniff the Baseball Hall of Fame. Well, he sniffed it, but anyway.
Well, you know my thoughts on voters. I don't exactly have a high
Right,
opinion.
but Otani is a special player. He is the most special player in our life.
Oh yeah,
I don't know, and as much as I say this, if a Baseball Hall of Fame voter says I don't give a shit about the WBC, I don't fault them. I get it, but I don't agree with it. Does that make sense?
yeah. Well, there's a lot of people here in the states that got very. There's a lot of people here in New York that got very angry and want to
Edwin
literally
Diaz,
see.
right? Yeah, because you
They
must have
got
heard
so
about
they
that.
want to see the entire thing banned because of that, which is very idiotic and just sounds like something you'd see on like the talk radio here in New York City. It's insufferable. Uh, but like I gotta say that Otani, like he's the Babe Ruth of our generation. He is someone who is very significant. Like you cannot underestimate how massive he has been for the sport of baseball. I mean, but I guess they just if they but I guess a lot of too many of them think like Stephen A. Smith think. I don't want someone who's the face of the sport that needs an interpreter. Pretty little dog whistle thing there.
Yeah, to a point. Saying that though, we've seen before. If you look different, if you sound different, it doesn't hurt you. Sometimes it helps you out a lot. And this might sound controversial. I honestly don't care. But if Tiger Woods was white and his name was Teddy Woods,
He would
wouldn't
not be as big.
exactly. Because sometimes it's great to be a little bit different from that. On the flip side, if Larry Bird was black,
I don't know if he'd be seen as positively in Boston. I could be wrong. I could be right. I don't
that's
know.
a good point. No, that's a very good point. But I mean, like overall, but yeah, that's a very good point. But like overall, that Larry Bird stood out. Jeremy Lin, to a lesser degree, stood out. I could. Does Simmons still do 30 for 30 or no? Or did he sell that?
Bill Simmons has been doing stuff for the Ringer for years now.
Okay, but 30 for 30, is that still his, or did you have to get rid of that?
I think he still has some ties to it, but 30 for 30 is something that he had a huge impact
Okay.
on.
A 30 for 30 on Jeremy Lin would be great. But
Oh,
if Jeremy Lin
they
was
should definitely be one.
but if Jeremy Lin was Jeremy Lang, wouldn't happen.
I mean, it was short, but it was sweet. Lynn Sanity
It was
was,
powerful. Well you were right there. You're New York.
yeah, he was huge. He was everywhere here.
Uh, okay, I think that one year, like the only game that I could go to that my wife wanted to go to was Asian. She wanted to see Jeremy Lin. Like there's something to that. But anyway, so Otani to me is like, how do I put this? One of my big sports regrets in terms of live watching, I never saw Gretzky play. I got to see Jordan play. I don't know how I'm going to manage to see Otani play.
You might have a chance now because
Well, I have to
because
drive to Minnesota and figure that out
oh
because
yeah, right.
it's possible.
Yeah, you have to go to Minnesota when they're playing the Twins.
Right.
That would be your best chance to see that.
Right.
And don't worry, they're an AL team, so you have more of a chance to see it. So
Right. But yeah, because like
if they were a national league team, you would have a bit of a harder chance. But now they made the schedule a bit easier
yeah, but
for.
not where I am.
Well, yeah, but
For that. Yeah. Okay. So I've got Otani is technically an elevator up. I don't know. But based on the final four, I've got a couple others. Actually, I'm only going to focus on one. I was going to do two, but I'm going to do only one.
you're gonna say Don Staley, yeah, obviously.
No, I already think she is. Jim Laranja. He's the coach of Miami, and this is his second trip to the Final Four. So basically, once you get to the Final Four, you're pretty much, I won't say locked in, but it really, really helps. He's already former AP Coach of the Year. I don't know if Miami's going to win the whole thing. I don't think any of us know who's going to win the whole thing. This is
No
not
one knows.
that anyone would have picked, but he's already won ACC tournaments. He's won the College Coach of the Year, Naismith College Coach of the Year, ACC Coach of the Year twice. I think he's the biggest beneficiary right now out of all the Final Four coaches, men or women, only because
You,
like the women ones are already on iconic teams.
you're forgetting that he also spent time with George Mason, and he took them to the Final Four in
I did not
2006.
because that's a second Final Four.
Yeah, it says that was his second Final Four. I think,
His first Final Four was George Mason.
yeah, I think the fact that he went to two Final Fours with two different teams, many Coach of the Year awards, many tournament championships. I think this put it in for. I think that put him in for me. Jim Loranga, I now view as a future Hall of Famer because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, I already thought he was on that track. This just made it easier for me.
and he could very well win the whole. Like he could win the whole thing. I don't know. I have no idea.
Also, here's another thing too with Miami. Since he's been there, they've gone. They've been the most successful team, in the state of Florida since he's been there. They've been to six tournament appearances, 4 32 rounds, 4 Sweet 16s, 2 Elite 8s, and now they're in a Final Four with a chance to win a national championship for the first time. That's also their first sort of Final Four in school history, too, by the way. And also their second Elite 8. What's the similar fact between the two? Jim Loranga. Absolutely. I think this is an easy elevator up, and it's not a matter of if for him, it's a matter of when.
Well, so, he could be a back-to-back one. If they win it all, I don't know.
I would if he wins the championship, he's making it.
There you go.
No question.
I would agree with you. So with that, since usually Evan sort of like closes us off with this good, the bad, and the ugly, we don't have him. So I'm just going to go to plugging all the other stuff. One of which is the show that Vinny just did. Vinny makes the Hall of Fame case for Max Kozlowski. Check that out. It's one of my favorite ones that we've done. And even if Max doesn't make it in, he's a finalist in that one committee. We'll see.
Can't hurt to try.
Can't hurt to try. Can't hurt to try. Also, too, next week on How the Hell Did This Go #1, we're going to be looking at Hall & Oates, Maneater. Is it Maneater? I think it's Maneater. Well,
Maneater, that sounds like the Nelly Furtado song, right?
Well, yeah, Furtado. Crap. Which one? Yeah, it is
Furtado?
Yeah, Nelly Furtado. Yeah, she's a fellow.
Maneater is also the Hall & Oates song, yeah.
It is, yeah. Yeah, because I keep getting confused because my favorite Hall & Oates song is Out of Touch, which we're not talking about. It's going to be Maneater. So look for that. In the tank that I've got to start working on editing is a show with Paul Lawrence and I, the Retro Football Show. We've recorded Super Bowl III, so we have to look at that. Our next one, I think, is going to be Super Bowl VI. We're going to skip past 4 and 5. Yeah. So don't check to see who won. So we're going to be doing that. I know, Glenn, hopefully you're watching, buddy, because I know you're coming back to Buffalo soon. So we got to do another show soon in the Classic Sports Review. Also, too, I've got 2 in the can that I'm working on, and this crap was on national television. The Buchnerverse has got a lot that we're working on. So
don't worry, and I'm not. And I wasn't wrong about the being more successful in DC. I mean, Shazam just bombed at the box office.
That is true. You did say that. Not that I understood any of it. I don't.
Like it bombed so badly. They had like an 80% drop.
Bomb?
Huge.
Okay. Well,
I got to do that because Dwayne Johnson had a bit of a role in that.
That I did see that. The other,
but it was more of a scapegoat from the company saying that.
Yeah, it's always somebody's fault. As my late father said, only an idiot blames himself.
That is true.
Mm-hmm. He never did blame himself. Yeah, he lived by that all 80 of his years. The other thing too is that I want to, well, two things I want to promote here. First thing is Vinny is also part of a group that we've put together for the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. Vote on that now because we're going to be doing the first class this summer. www.nottenhalloffame.com/USA, and it is for the greatest American athletes. And the great thing about this is it's all voted on you. Pure democracy. Who knew? Who knew that was possible? But it is. And the other thing too is Vinny's also going to be helping me with, and unfortunately, just with the death of my father, this has been delayed a little bit. Where we're going to do basically a retro Pro Football Hall of Fame revisited. So like the Football Hall of Fame started in 1963. What if it was 13 years earlier? And what if they did like five people every year? Where would we be now? Where would we be now and not have to worry about the backlog, which we have now?
There would be more pre-NFLers, in my opinion.
Right. Be a lot more people who are in, and we're looking for people who want to be prospective voters. So if you've got something that you want to contribute for that, we'd love to have you. Contact myself, contact Vinny, contact Evan, contact Jack, any one of us. You know who we all are. If you don't, what the hell are you doing watching this?
Maybe they just want to see our beautiful faces.
No, mine's not so beautiful. Yours,
you know, might be someone's.
Only my Undertaker knows for sure. And with that, wherever you are, wherever you may be, the Buchnerverse bids you adieu.
Deal. See you.
Bye.